You're listening to the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast. Now here's your hosts, Kevin, Derek, and Alex.
All right, and welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast. I am Derek, and joined as always by your co-host, Kevin. Kevin, how we doing tonight?
Doing all right, man. Definitely a mixed bag here over the weekend. I fell out in our league of record. It was just, we had some throughout the league, right? Let me take a step back. Throughout the league, we had some high scoring games, right? And we had some really good games. And for those of you who went up against Kyle Pitts on Thursday night, if you had the right kind of mix and match, you ended up okay, right? Trevor Lawrence had a massive performance. Puka Nacua, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Trey McBride, who else? ETN had a big game. James Cook continues to just tear the NFL up here the last two seasons. So, there were definitely performances by an array of players to help make up that difference if you were going up against Pitts, to help you catch up. And if you had any of those players with Pitts, you feel pretty stinking good. There's really high likelihood that you were on to the next round. So congratulations to all of you who are in perceivably the semifinals. Good on you. Let's see what else. I think for the start, I'm gonna leave it at that. So it was a mixed bag. League of record, not so good. Some others, I did pretty well. I had some bye weeks that I didn't have to worry about games last week. So juking and jiving. And now, we're looking at basically semifinals week. It is all about setting your best lineup and blocking your opponent or future opponents wherever you can. Like we are completely no holds barred, and everything goes to try and win a championship at this point.
Absolutely. I managed to be one of those guys that went up against both Kyle Pitts and Amon-Ra in our home league, and somehow managed to escape with the W on that one. And what was the highest scoring matchup of the week in that league, right? I had the number 1 points for, went up against the number 2 points for, and in a game that was separated out by like 8 total points, which in our league, right, for anybody that hasn't followed for a while, the games will get up there 400 to 500 type of point range on that. It is scoring on, if guys could get points for drinking Gatorade, we'd probably find a way to get them points for drinking Gatorade on the sidelines. But
I like to think that it's scoring that's what I would consider appropriate. Right? We have metrics for all these things. It is a volume-based league, right? But players get rewarded, right? We get first down points, we get reception points, we get targets. Like, and maybe the targets are a little bit too juiced. Like, I think maybe down the road, if we wanted to back that down to like a half a point, because sometimes bad targets you still.
But actually, the targets anymore don't get the points because the platform doesn't allow for that anymore.
Well, that's right. We did that on the ESPN thing. We did get rid of that. Never mind. Yeah. So good. So we got for first down, yardage bonuses, completions, like all the things. So, but yeah, they're fun leagues. I mean, I haven't gone through this year and added up like through the regular season what the average weekly score was throughout, but I would tell you that, I mean, Derek's spot on. It's probably somewhere in that 420 to 430, maybe 435 point range is kind of the average weekly score for any given team across the league. So it's fun, right? Because you're never quite out of it, no matter what happens. And it feels a bit better as you're looking at it, as opposed to, a half point PPR where you're wanting to break like 120, something like that. So,
right. So, but yeah, so most of the other leagues that I made the playoffs in were kind of, moving and grooving and getting our way through there. So, good set of games in the books, and we got some more coming up here this weekend to try and move on to week 17 for championship week. But before we start kind of diving into the chat and looking ahead here, any reactions, any news notes, anything like that you want to hit up here?
We'll lead with the headliner. I'm sure everybody here knows by now, but Patrick Mahomes, with the ACL. This being mid-December when that happens, I am curious about kind of what this timeline is. I think I saw it on ESPN on the ticker that his LCL was also damaged, so they repaired that as well. I don't want to put that out there as like absolute because I could have been mistaken on how I was reading that ticker. I believe that was the case. Micah Parsons, same thing. He went down. So it was definitely unfortunate, right? You don't want to see these guys get hurt. Devontae Adams went up with a hamstring or came up lame with a hamstring towards the end of the game. They have the Thursday night matchup. The Rams have said that they're going to give him every chance possible to play Thursday nights. So I would expect that to be a game time decision. So if you have him on your rosters, you're going to need to pay really close attention Thursday and see what that looks like and be prepared to pivot. Absolutely be prepared to pivot off of Devontae Adams. So those are some of the three highlights. The Chiefs are officially eliminated. The Bengals, I believe, are officially eliminated now. The Miami Dolphins, I think for all intents and purposes, are eliminated. I believe it's officially, but I might be mistaken on that one. And we have the jockey for second place in the NFC, which has been crazy. So 2 weeks ago, it was the Bears. Right. And the Packers were in the wild card spot. And then the Bears beat the Packers. Or excuse me, the Packers beat the Bears. So the Packers jumped all the way up to 2. The Bears dropped to 7. Well, this past week, Broncos handed the Packers another loss. The Bears won their game. So now they flip-flopped again. So this NFC North race is really cool only because it means so much for both of these teams, right? At the current moment, it is the difference between the number 2 seed and the number 7 seed. We'll see how this Thursday night game goes between the LA Rams and the Seattle Seahawks because the Rams have clinched a playoff spot, but the Seahawks are a game behind. And really it's a game and a half kind of since they dropped the first game in SoFi. But if the Seahawks beat the Rams, then they have identical records splitting the regular season. So now you're getting into some tiebreakers and everything else. So plenty of jockeying around to go for playoff seedings, which is awesome. It's what we want for the fantasy playoffs because that means these teams are vested and the players that we have attached to these teams are not going to be sat down early because they absolutely know what's at stake.
Right. Well, and yes, the Dolphins officially eliminated, Chiefs officially eliminated, and Bengals officially eliminated this last week. The on the AFC side of things, right, 1 through 7, those guys are in, but number 8 with the Colts and number 9 with the Ravens, those are really the only other 2 teams that are in the hunt for that. On the NFC side of things, you still have the Lions, Panthers, and Cowboys on the outside looking in on that. And really, I think the Cowboys, their real only option to try and make that is to find a way to win the division.
Yeah, they have to win out, and the Eagles have to lose out.
Right. Yep. So,
which I don't see happening. So we'll see how that goes. But the Eagles playing Washington this week. Washington has done a good job playing Philly tough here the last few years. So I'm not saying it's impossible. However, I think Philly understands what's at stake, right? They know what they're up against. They know that they're not quite themselves yet, and that's troublesome for them. But talent just overcomes. And with no Jaden Daniels and a banged up offensive line for Washington, banged up running backs, like I think Philly should be able to come away with a win this weekend at least. And Dallas will be no more. And then we'll see what happens with Detroit. Again, they need a little bit of help here. They really needed that game against the Rams. and just couldn't quite get it done. And that's kind of been the Eagles, or not the Eagles, excuse me, the Lions this year, is they've been the team that beats up on lesser competition, but they have had a problem beating teams at their level or slightly above this year.
Right. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how some of this shakes out, because there is a lot at stake here. That was a hard one to try and get out there, but a lot at stake here for teams coming into this, right? You're starting to look at some of these scenarios where teams can clinch the number 1 seed and a bye. You're coming into this week, next week type of thing, or potentially be eliminated with wins and losses. So lots to play for, and it'll be interesting to see what teams arise and which ones kind of fall flat here coming down the stretch. So a lot of expectations coming in the season, and for a lot of teams, some of those have already been eliminated and hopes dashed, but quite a few there's left to go. So any other news notes that you want to hit up here before we start diving into the chat?
No, I don't think so. We can get right into it.
All right, awesome. Jason over on YouTube saying, set my lineup with 1 QB, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, a tight end, 2 flex QB, Burrow, Brissett, running backs Barkley, Javonte, Kyron, Hampton, Vidal, wide receivers Chase, Nico, London. If he plays, Sutton, Terry, Kittle. Well, the tight end's Kittle. That's a pretty easy one there.
Yeah. I guess I'll start with the beginning. I will play Burrow by a hair over Brissett.
Yeah.
I am not going to have a problem if you want to change to Brissett, though, because if we take a look at the last 4 weeks or so, Jacoby Brissett's a top 3 quarterback with what he's gotten done. So I understand the notion of riding the hot hand. So if you want to go that route, I know it looks a little dirty, but playing Brissett isn't necessarily doom and gloom just because of the sheer fact that he's sitting back
throw
and
the ball
throwing
40 plus times.
Yep, throwing it 40 plus times. That's a lot of opportunities. And he's doing a good job of finding Michael Wilson and Trey McBride. I'm sure he will attempt to do the same if Marvin Harrison Jr. is able to get back onto the field. So that one's interesting. Burrow, I like the matchup this week against Miami, right? Like Miami looked tired. Miami looks slow. I understand the cold weather thing, and there's a narrative there, but there is something like you dug yourself into a hole, and they were so focused over the last 4 weeks, right? Getting on this win streak and even putting themselves into position that a lot of times after your bubble gets burst, you take a breath. And on top of that, they're talking about a quarterback change. So who knows how the team's going to react to that. And I think Joe Burrow and the Bengals offense, I think he understands that well enough that he's going to try and put his guys in the position to make sure they get their bonuses, right? And so we got a couple weeks to get to that. But I think he's aware. And again, a Miami team who's just gotten eliminated. Yes, the same as Cincinnati, but with Burrow being gone for so much of the season, I think that offense is still going to look to kind of churn some things out and be a bit more efficient. So again, Burrow by a hair over Brissett, but I'm not going to doubt you or question you if you want to flip it and play Brissett. As far as the running backs go, oh man, I think you have to play Barkley against Washington. I know that it hasn't been super sexy. I know that it's not necessarily the safest thing that you can kind of lean on with, but this Washington matchup is really good.
Right.
Like, it's really good as far as opposing running backs go. So I do think that you kind of want to take that. And
he's gotten 20 plus carries the last 2 games.
Yeah, right. Like, again, it's that's tough. And then would you go Javonte or Hampton? Because that's where I'm at. Like, I would not play Kyron. I know he got the touchdowns, and I know that was the big game against the Lions. that was a playoff game, right? The Rams viewed that as a playoff game. Well, now that they got that out of the way, short week, I could see them mixing in Blake Corum a bit more here against Seattle.
And Seattle's been good on the defensive side, right? Like tough matchup there. But yes, I'm same opinion, right? It's Javonte or Hampton, right? I think it's Javonte by a hair on that one. Yeah, the Hampton matchup's probably a little bit easier, but Javonte is right. If you're running him out there as running back 2, he's been playing very back end RB1, weekly finishes for the last several weeks. I'm still rolling that one, right? Like setting him as my running back 2, and I think that you're going to still get. You have the potential to get maybe RB10 on the week, but I feel like the floor is probably somewhere around RB18, and I think that that's probably about where Hampton's ceiling is in that RB18, RB15 to RB22 type of range on that one. So I like the range and the potential outcome for Javonte better. So I would lean on the Javonte side.
Okay. All right. I can go with you there. And then Chase and Nico at wide receiver. I know you need 3, right? So we know you need a third.
Yep.
If London plays, I think London's the spot. If London doesn't play,
I think I'm leaning Sutton myself.
Well, and I think we're going to solve this problem on its own because of the 2 flex plays.
Right.
Right. So if London doesn't play, you're playing Sutton and Terry, one at wide receiver, one at the flex, and then the other running back, meaning Hampton or Javonte, whichever way you want to go. Right. So that's the pivot. But I think that's the course, right? So we know how we're doing this. If London plays, then I think I still would play Hampton, and then I think I'd play Sutton too by a hair over Terry McLaurin.
I'd agree with that.
I think I'd do that by a hair. And I think that one's probably a little bit closer, but I think if London plays, he's in, and then you're playing Sutton and Hampton.
Right. No, I think you and I are pretty spot on here, right? After kind of talking that through. So I would co-sign on that, and we'll just move on to the next one. Jason said start one this week between Warren, Jake, Ferguson, Loveland. Might start Burden. Waller, no Tua, Schultz already starting Nico.
I think I want Warren. It sounds like it's a flex question.
I think it's a tight end question here because it's
Ty Warren. Are you reading? Sorry,
Tyler.
I instantly went to Jalen Warren. Sorry.
So did I, but kind of reading through the names, it looks I would actually imagine it's probably Tyler Warren, with the rest of those all being tight ends. So we'll read it that way: Tyler Warren, Jake Ferguson, Loveland, or Schultz or Waller. The fact that we don't know who the quarterback's going to be this week for Miami kind of moves Waller way on down, right? Like I like the matchup, probably the best of anybody there, but the rumblings about quarterback and Mike McDaniels, who's been, that kind of outspoken, coach that when things start pointing at Tua, right, has always kind of steered that back and away. And the fact that things are now on the table on that one makes me very nervous for whoever's going to be playing quarterback there. And if it's Tua, right, we've seen this Dolphins offense without Tua. It doesn't operate very well. And I'm not at all interested in Darren Waller at that point. So,
yeah,
it's a long way to say that I'm moving to the back of my list.
I think I would go Schultz first in this scenario, and then Loveland, and then Ferguson. I think is how I would rank these guys. Like this. I know everyone wants to talk about the Phil Rivers thing and coming back, and yeah, I mean he ran the offense well, right? Like it's not he didn't lose his ability to play a game. But again, 44 years old, his legs just aren't quite there. We got to see how his body recovers from this first game, right? We have no idea how much treatment he is or isn't getting just from getting hit.
Right.
And he's a professional and he'll be out there. Like he's not hurt. Like, well, he's not injured. He might be dinged up already, but I don't want to waste that. So I like the Schultz matchup against Vegas. The biggest challenge with this is, do you run into the same thing that the Eagles just did and you're only getting 3/4 out of them? Like that's a question there. I would expect Loveland to be in the entire game against the Packers, and that could be a back and forth affair. Ferguson as just kind of fallen off just a little bit, right? Like now that CD's fully healthy and the Cowboys are now officially eliminated, like I'm not quite sure what to expect out of this one. So I would still think I lean Schultz first, Loveland 2, then Jake Ferguson is how I would rank those guys.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll co-sign on that one. I like that thought. Jason, are Pollard, Merritt, Carter, and Amari DeMarcado better pick up and starts this week instead of mine? With Rico, Hampton, Vidal, Kamara need at least to start 2 of these running backs. I don't know that you're really going to see Kamara again this year.
I would agree. I was just thinking that same thing. Like, I think you can absolutely pick up one of these guys. Pollard's got the hot hand, so
Right.
he might also have the toughest matchup, but we don't know, again, what we don't know.
Right. And what does Kansas City do now that they're officially eliminated? They've got a lot of vets on this. Like,
yeah, are they playing with pride or are they playing to pack up and go to Cancun?
Right.
Like, that is super interesting on how that game's going to play out. JCM probably going to get the most. He has the easiest path to just total domination of carries.
Right. The only thing that
Washington, but Philly,
yeah.
Like if they're if they're finally getting tuned up, we started to see this against Vegas, but if they're finally getting tuned up, do they just key in on it and go, no, like we're getting in playoff form here. So,
right. But if Rodriguez is back this year or this week too, that muddies up the backfield in Washington as well.
Yes, if Rodriguez comes back, you definitely don't want Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. So
I'm picking up Pollard.
I would take Pollard. Yeah, I think I'd take Pollard over Kamara, right? Like, I agree with that. Take Pollard over Kamara. And then if you're starting 2, you're starting Rico and Hampton. So there's your 2 that are starting. You're going to see if Tennessee can get past this game against the Chiefs and we can kind of understand it, because we don't want you to chase the points, but if he's the hot hand and that's who Tennessee's going with, there is value in that running back.
Right. So yeah, and some of that would be too, right? Like there's also a component of this that could be some keep away action as well, right? Like depending upon what your roster lineup is and if you're having to drop guys, things like that. If you can do some of the keep away action, there could be some interesting components to keeping away Pollard, Bill, and Carter there. But I wouldn't go crazy dropping guys either on that one, right? Like very much is going to be dependent upon who you may drop, but there is also that component of taking a guy up so your opponent can't play him against you too, right? So something else to consider. Any other thoughts on this one?
No, I'm good.
All right. Set my lineup this week. 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, one tight end, two flex QB between Burrow, Nix, and Trevor. Running backs are Rico, Hampton, Vidal, Kamara if he plays. Wide receivers Puka, Nico, Tet, Wandale Robinson, Shakir, and Burden. I don't see a tight end there, but
I don't see it either, but that's okay. I'd go Burrow at quarterback. I would go Rico and Marion Hampton at running back. And then Puka, Nico, Tet, Wandell would be your three receivers and one flex spot. And then the second flex spot, I'm probably going to go Shakir. Burden has a higher upside. But I think Shakir, at least with Shakir, you're going to get like 5 for 65.
Right.
Like, you should be pretty confident in getting, 9 to 11 points out of Khalil Shakir.
Well, and looking back at his previous question with Pollard, JCM, and Carter, did any of those float your boat at a potential flex play there?
If it's the same lineup, I might play Pollard over Shakir just because you're getting the volume.
Right. That's kind of my thought as well when I was looking at that. And if that is the case, that's how I'd go too. All right. Any other thoughts on this one?
No, sir.
Top 5 over on YouTube. Half point PPR. Set the lineup. 1 QB, 2 wide receivers, 2 running backs, 1 tight end, 1 flex. QBs are Purdy, Nix. Wide receivers are Sutton, Michael Wilson, Mbuka, Brian Thomas Jr., Marvin Harrison Jr. Running backs are Bijan, Achane, Etienne, Brees. Tight ends, Warren and Waller, and 1 flex. Well, your running backs are going to be your set there with Bijan, Achane, Etienne. That's who I'm going with. 2 running backs and 1 wide receiver, or 1 flex. I'm sorry.
I completely agree with that. I think I would go with Brock Purdy this week. The Jags defense has been really good lately. And again, the Broncos are rising to the occasion. They're learning how to win these big games. But again, this is the playoffs. This isn't real life. And so for the fantasy playoffs, I want the path of least resistance. And while the Colts defensively did kind of stand up to Seattle, I'm not convinced that they're going to be able to do that 2 weeks in a row. Correct. So I think I'm playing Purdy there over Bo Nix. I completely agree with the wide receivers. It's Bijan, Achane, and Etienne for your running back room. And then for wide receivers, you need 2 of them. I am going Michael Wilson against Atlanta. And then I'm probably playing Mbuka because I don't want to play Marvin Harrison and Wilson on the same team. I'm probably playing Mbuka. It's a much easier matchup for Tampa Bay than it is for Jacksonville going up against Denver.
Fair enough. Yeah, I don't know. I agree on the Michael Wilson. I could see Michael Wilson having a top 10 fantasy week this week. I would be inclined to potentially lean the Sutton side over Mbuka more so, just from what we've seen on the struggles.
I think you're right. I'm sorry. I would agree with that. I didn't mean to cut you off. I completely overlooked it. So I would agree. Take the consistency.
Right. And quite frankly, out of that wide receiver room with what you've got, you don't need the week winning performances to come from there. Your week winning performances have got to come with that running back power that you've got and that the team's base around this. Bijan, Achane, and Etienne, those are the 3 guys that are going to ultimately win or lose your weeks on that. And if these guys all kind of peak, it's a tough roster to beat. As far as the tight end, if Tua's in there, I'll go Waller. If not, I'm going to go Warren, and I don't feel good about it.
So,
okay. Any other thoughts on this one?
No, not on this one.
All right. For the defensive side of things, you like the Chiefs, Bills, Saints, or Seahawks?
I like the Bills.
So do I.
Followed by the Saints. Like if you don't love if you're a Shador believer and you think Cleveland's going to start giving the Bills fits, okay, fine, then I'm pivoting to the Saints.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. I like it. William saying that they would have lost if not for the bye this week. That's why you play for the buys.
Yep, absolutely.
Canalita over on YouTube saying hi, hello. William also on YouTube saying pick to Mbuka, Tet, McMillan, or Michael Wilson. Do I drop Kay Walker or Kenneth Walker or Charbonnet for Michael Carter? It's Michael Wilson and Tet for me this week on that wide receiver.
I would agree with that also. Michael Wilson and Tet.
As far as the drop,
I
think I'd rather play Michael Carter over Kenneth Walker, but I don't necessarily want to drop him. If you're really wanting to do something like that, you maybe drop Charbonnet to go get Michael Carter, but then you're kind of giving up the backfield to move on to a backfield that hasn't been efficient. One inefficient backfield for another is really what you're getting into.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think you stay put. I think with DeMarcado coming back, I think Michael Carter's got some upside, but there's still plenty of debate whether you think DeMarcado is going to actually be leading in snaps. And with as much as Arizona throws the ball, DeMarcado is going to be the receiving back, so that would kind of lean that he's going to be on the field a bit more. And Seattle, as frustrating as this duo has been between Kenneth Walker and Charbonnet, I don't know that I'm willing to break it up just in case something happens, because the last thing I want to do is scramble for a running back in the finals if something were to happen to him this week.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And William says, thank you for the thoughts. Tyler over on YouTube, Mike Evans, Rashee Rice, or Reed leaning Evans, scared of Rice without Mahomes. Minshew threw the ball 5 times all to Kelsey.
It's Evans.
Yeah.
It's Evans. I think Evans, as long as there's no setback and we haven't heard anything to this point with Mike Evans being back, I think Baker's just going to pepper the crap out of him. Maybe eventually it does help Mbuka, with the coverage not being solely focused on him. But again, Tampa Bay's fighting for the playoffs. Gardner Minshew with Rashee Rice, you could see him focus in, and it should be Rice or Kelsey, right? As the game plays out, those two guys should be leading the Chiefs in all the receiving categories. Reed, I don't want any part of. So it's clearly Mike Evans this week for me. Rice is a distant second, and Jalen Reed's not even a thought for me.
Cosign. Kennedy over on YouTube saying, hi, how are you? Question, how is the sun on fire if there's no oxygen? It's an interesting question as it pertains to fantasy football, but I feel like I can answer this one if you don't have a good one.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So it's not necessarily on fire, right? Because it's not burning. Yes, it's not on fire. It's not burning. It's simply glowing from nuclear fusion going on and the compression and immense gravity fusing the hydrogen atoms, producing the heat and everything else that you see going on there. But good question. Any other thoughts on that one?
No, go for it.
All righty. Also, Tyler, would you pick Schultz over Waller and Loveland?
Yes. Barely, but yes.
Yeah. So if Tua does play, if Tua is the starting quarterback, then I'm willing to entertain Darren Waller as a potential tight end for the week. But if Tua is not the guy in Miami this week and they roll somebody else out there as a starter, I want zero Darren Waller in any of my lineups here in the semifinals. Any other thoughts on that one?
No, I agree. Zach Wilson didn't use the tight end a whole lot in his previous stops. There's no reason to think that he's going to use the tight end a whole lot in Miami.
Fair enough. Let's get it over on YouTube, fellas. Along with Myers, I am starting Brian Thomas Jr., Marvin Harrison Jr., Mitchell, Coker, or Franklin. Leaning with Myers, Mitchell, but let me know in a half-point PPR.
I don't mind this.
I don't either.
I don't mind this. Coker's interesting. Like, Coker's been seeing quite a few targets. And Tampa Bay has not defended the pass very well here the last couple weeks. So it's tough not wanting or trying to, bank a semifinal matchup on Bryce Young's performance, but it's an outside shot. Yeah, I think Jacoby Myers is the safe bet there. And Tony Mitchell's been seeing targets too, right? That's a ceiling play. But I don't hate it.
Right. Yeah, I don't know that I've got any other thoughts on that one. Colin over on YouTube. Am I crazy to drop Fannin or Warren for Parkinson? Half-point PPR.
I was looking at this specifically to Fannin here this week even. Shedeur Sanders loves him some Fannin. And I think that's really hard to move away from. But I think I could drop Tyler Warren for Parkinson. As crazy as that sounds, and with Tyler Warren being so good at the beginning part of the season, but I think with Daniel Jones going down, this Colts offense is operating completely differently. And while Phillip Rivers was able to utilize really good tight ends in really San Diego while he was there with the Chargers, there's nothing that at least week one showed us that that's going to translate over. I think more line they're going to ask Tyler Warren to step in and continue to chip block and make sure that Rivers stays upright and can at least run the offense. So I think I could drop Warren for Parkinson. Parkinson's had a pretty good 3-week run here for the Rams. And if Devontae Adams is down for this week and next week, whatever that is, those targets free up. And we saw in the game against the Lions that Matthew Stafford does trust him and is willing to throw the ball his way, probably a little bit more than anybody ever imagined. So I don't think I'd drop Fannin, but I would drop Warren.
Yeah, I would agree. And looking at it this week, I really don't mind the starting Fannin over Parkinson, but I think those two are really flip of a coin. When it boils down to it, I think both of them are going to have very good weeks. So, any other thoughts on this one?
No.
All right. Joe over on YouTube, made it thus far. Dak or Goff, 6-point passing touchdown plus 10-point bonus at 300 yards.
I like and don't like both these guys for different reasons.
Yeah.
So I'll start by saying this. I like Goff because he's playing at home, right? He doesn't have to deal with any of the elements. So I like that. I like the fact that the Lions are really, their backs are against the wall and they have to win this game against Pittsburgh to stay in the race. And Pittsburgh defensively has been susceptible. Miami's game plan was trash Monday night, but we have seen that if you're able to put some pressure on Aaron Rodgers and your offensive line is able to at least collectively protect, especially with Watt out, we'll see if he comes back or not, but especially with TJ Watt out, there's a lot to like about Jared Goff. The downside is if the Lions come out and they jump over the Packers, you could see this turn into just a Jahmyr Gibbs run fest. And when that typically happens, you see Goff end up with about 220, maybe 230 yards. He might get you 2 touchdowns. but his upside is completely taken away. So that's the downside. Flip it over to Dak. It's a harder matchup against the Chargers. The Chargers are a pretty stout defense. They're hard-hitting defense, and Kansas City found that out. However, the Chargers tend to play down to their competition. Just a little bit. Maybe not completely, but just a little bit. And as much as they need this game and it's at home, I wonder, because the Cowboys know that there's still an inkling of a chance, if they just go out and let it rip. And I think for that reason, I think I'm going to trust Dak one more week over Jared Goff. They have to pass to win the game. We know that the Cowboys have to score 30 to win the game. The Lions, quite frankly, could win. The Lions could beat the Steelers by scoring 20. The Cowboys can't beat the Chargers without scoring 30. And so, I know last week Dak's performance was dampened. Yes, the loss, but both times they got it down close to the end zone, they ran it in, took a couple touchdowns off the board potentially for Dak. So that was kind of a bummer. But I think I'm going to trust him one more time. He's done really well for us this season. And I'm going to play the stud who got me there. And this season it's been Dak.
Yeah, I'll co-sign on that. I like the thought. Joe over on YouTube, who do I flex? Woody Marks, assuming he's healthy, Mbuka, Brian Thomas Jr., or Pittman?
I think I'm playing Woody Marks against Vegas.
Yeah. That's a tough one to
that's tough to turn down. If he's healthy and playing, I think I'm going to lean Woody Marks. If you need upside, I think you're going to be looking towards Igbuka and just hoping that they're paying so much attention to Mike Evans, he's able to just kind of walk in and he gets you, 6 for 96 and a touchdown.
Fair enough. Yeah, I would. I'll co-sign on that. I think Mbuka and Brian Thomas Jr. are very close to each other this week, but yeah, I like the upside call on Mbuka. And I would play Woody Marks if he's healthy over either one. So, Colin over on YouTube, half point PPR running backs of Barkley, Etienne, Javonte Williams, Marks, wide receivers, Ladd, Evan, London, Harrison, Reed, Rome, tight ends, Warren, Fannin can start 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, and 2 flex and 1 tight end. Well, Fannin at tight end, Etienne and Javonte at your running back, Evans and London if they're healthy, and probably go Marks and Ladd at the flex for me is how I'd see that one.
I think I'd look at it slightly different.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, I missed Barkley. That was
and that's kind of where I was leaning.
I missed it, but yeah, Barkley, Etienne, Javonte then fills into a flex. Sorry, go ahead.
Yep. So your 3 running backs: Barkley, Etienne, Javonte. Again, Woody Marks. The matchup's good.
Mm-hmm.
So it does depend on upside. Evans is the must start at wide receiver in this list. Harrison, the matchup is there. But again, how does he look after missing time between the appendectomy and then coming back and getting dinged up? I just don't know if the Cardinals are going to be quick to pull him if he gets another nick. So London, if he plays, is clearly in that second wide receiver spot alongside Evans. If London can't go, then I'm probably going to go Ladd McConkey against the Cowboys as opposed to Harrison. So between those 3 receivers, if London's healthy, it's Evans, London. If London's out, then it's Evans and Ladd. I agree with Fannin. And so then that leaves Barkley, Etienne, Javonte Williams and Marks between your 2 running backs and your 2 flex spots.
Yeah, I like that one. Yeah, I can't believe I overlooked that one there. Anyway, we'll go with that one and move on. Tyler asking Saints or Rams defense?
Saints.
Yeah, this week that is a juicy matchup.
Jets are terrible. Playing the Saints.
Yep. Let's see here. Aaron over on YouTube, Bowers, Waller, or Parkinson. Had hard to sit Bowers, but Waller had such a great matchup, and Parkinson should see a lot more targets. Goes back to that same thing we've been saying all night with Waller. If Tua's not in there, Waller's the end of the list of these tight ends.
Yeah, and I think the next question that I have is, do you believe that the Las Vegas Raiders watched the game film of how the Cardinals freed up Trey McBride? Because Trey McBride had a really good game against the Texans. We did not think that was going to happen.
No.
And sure enough, it did, right? 130 yards and 2 touchdowns. Like, really good game. I don't know if Bowers can do that stat line, but is it possible? I think if you want guaranteed points, you're going Parkinson. I think if you want to play for some upside, it's Bowers.
Yeah. I have a hard time.
It's hard benching Bowers, but it's just it looks so ugly for the Raiders. So ugly. And I don't trust their quarterback play. The offensive play calling looks terrible. Genty's been non-existent. Like, Bowers has a good week and then he disappears, and then he has another decent week and then he kind of disappears again. So maybe because he wasn't really effective last week, you feel like this week he can have a better game, but I don't know that I trust Las Vegas to study game film hard enough to understand, hey, we can take advantage of these same matchups that the Cardinals did.
Right. I mean, it is tough to roll out a guy that, right, like the volume was there even this last week against Philadelphia, right? 6 for 8 as a tight end. Like that's some pretty good volume, right? The 28 yards does not get the job done on any spectrum of fantasy scoring there. So I don't know that as much as I want to, say, hey, you go with the guy, you go with your kind of big, your big name guy in the situation, and the guy that got you here in a lot of instances. If Kenny Pickett's under center again, like I want zero part of anything to do with Vegas this week, right? Parkinson has been getting looks, has been getting good targets. If Devontae is out, I think that you'll see Parkinson step up and get a much better role in that Thursday game. Waller, yes, they've certainly had him built into the game plan there this last week, but again, right, with McDaniels coming out today and being non-committal with Tua being their guy moving forward, I don't know that I trust anybody in the Miami offense other than Devon Achane at that point, right? So I think I'm kind of right back to what you were saying, right? With Parkinson, I think has the safest floor of any one of these guys, and Bowers is the ceiling shot, but Bowers is got to be looked at as boom bust, guy that could go out there and get you 15, 18 points out of the tight end position, but it could also end up rolling a 3-point performance for you. So you got to be okay with the range of outcomes there. And if you're not, if you're looking for, depending upon your matchup, if you're looking for that safe floor, I think Parkinson's the guy. Kind of a very long way of saying that. But any other thoughts on this?
No, it's tougher than it should be, right? And it is the quarterback play in Vegas. I'm not opposed to starting your studs. Right. So while Derek and I are both leaning Parkinson slightly over Bowers, again, I'm not going to fault you for playing, the tight end who got drafted number 1 and has had a solid season. He just hasn't been as dynamic as last year due to inefficiency on the offense. But like Derek said, he's not going to get forgotten. It's just a matter of, can you live with a 5-point performance from Brock Bowers?
That is tough.
And it just being a wash. Like, can you absorb that?
Yeah, that's a tough deal to try and reconcile with, right? And one of those that, you gotta wrestle with that and what that looks like going through there. So I would still break that down with the way that went out there and laid it out there. But I'm not sure how that one is, but we'll just go with calling that inner. Hi, guys. McLaurin, Bowers in half-point PPR. I have R.J. Harvey and Devontae Adams banged up and got to start Kittle for the flex.
I don't know. I mean, Harvey's banged up, yes, but I expect Harvey to play. I don't think I'd start Kittle in the flex. I think I'd play Harvey in that flex spot and then start Kittle over Bowers.
I could see that. I kind of like that one, actually. Yeah, because if you... Yeah, I think I would do that as well, right? I think Kittle's got that prime matchup. So, co-sign on that.
Indy's not good against the tight end. That linebacking core is kind of the weakness of that defense, if you will. So that's why I'm leaning Kittle over Bowers. And then playing Harvey. It's hard to sit Adams even if he goes, but with this hamstring tweak, it could be one play, right? And again, you don't want major question marks looking at Harvey or the other tight end at that point. At least gives you a week's worth. I don't know that Adams plays, guys. I really don't. And it hasn't come out and said that, but it could be that he plays, but he's only playing in like certain red zone packages because Stafford likes him in the end zone. He could, it could be like Roma Dunze, right? He goes and warms up, and then 5 minutes before game time, they go, no, he can't go. And that news gets out, and then you don't have time to change it over. So you get hung with a 0 for Devontae Adams. Like, uncertainty in the playoffs really scares the crap out of me. And I understand that the touchdowns are really hard to pass up. But when you're talking about soft tissue injuries, especially for a team fighting for the playoffs, they know they need him. While they're going to give him the opportunity to try and show that he can play, they're going to protect him from himself, if that makes sense. And they're going to make damn sure that, they have him for the long haul. So because of all that, I'd put Kittle in my tight end spot. I'd play Harvey in the flex and roll with that.
Right. Well, it'd be different too with the Devontae Adams side of things, right? If this was a Sunday game, kind of going into it, right? And if you had some of the information from the Thursday game already playing in, right? If you had a couple of guys playing on Thursday, or your opponent had a couple of guys playing on Thursday, and now you're looking at Sunday, and you can kind of weigh and judge that about, what do I need to ultimately pull out a victory here? The fact that you don't have any of that information and you'll be setting that type of deal. Now you're potentially setting up a matchup there where if he goes out and does like what you just said, where he plays a couple of snaps and a couple of series in, he's out and not to return, or he only ends up playing 15-20% of the snaps. Right. And you end up getting a severe underperformance or a severe or a goose egg even under that type of deal. Now you're having to go into Sunday and chase things and being reactionary instead of trying to set a lineup and go through it that way. So you kind of enter into this one and go through that navigation where you kind of go into that mindset that yes, you'd like to play Devontae Adams and what he's been doing and been a touchdown machine, but you're willing to be wrong if if that choice ends up popping a little bit on the Thursday night. Any other thoughts on this one?
No, I agree with that.
All right, awesome. Big Rail over on YouTube saying you draft Bowers as stud, then you sit him in the playoffs. Depends, right? Like depends on what your other options are, things like that. In this case, where Kittle's the deal, absolutely, right? Like anybody that's relying on Ashton Genty to try and be the running back one this week, I'd also be probably telling them to pivot on that one too. And Ashton Genty was drafted to be a stud as well. That Raiders offense is
Draft
a tough.
position
It
means
doesn't matter at
literally
this point.
squat at this point. It means
Right.
absolutely nothing. It doesn't matter whether you traded for him, whether you picked him off the waiver wire, whether you drafted him at 101 or 16-12. Like it just at this point, you're just trying to win, and it's finding the best matchups to do it.
Right. Inner saying that they drafted Bowers and grabbed Kittle after week 1 when someone dropped him. That was a smart move on that working that waiver.
Heck yeah. Questionable decision by your league mate, but hey, it's working out for you.
Correct, absolutely. Big Raylan, what if Zach Wilson starts? Would you play Waller?
I have no interest outside of Devon Achane in Miami's offense.
Agreed.
Whether it's Waddle, whether it's Waller, I mean Washington, it doesn't matter. I have zero interest in it outside of Achane.
Right. Aaron saying thanks, guys. Inner, sorry, I meant Bowers or McLaurin in the flex. Going back to that question there. So would you rather go McLaurin or Bowers in the flex at a half point?
I think I'm going McLaurin.
As much as I don't feel good about that, I think I would agree. Right? Like
you gotta show that he'll target him, right? Like Mariota's not like Terry McLaurin adverse.
It's true.
It's just, how do you think this Philly matchup's going to go? And again, divisional matchup. Yes, these teams know each other. Washington again has done a decent job of at least playing Philly kind of close here. And this Philly team is not the same team that we saw last year, right? Where we probably wouldn't even entertain this. With this script and what we have going on, McLaurin and Bowers. I mean, I think both guys you're looking at somewhere between 55 and 75 yards in most cases. McLaurin has the bigger upside though, right? He can get behind the defense and potentially get you those bonus yards and breaks one loose for 40 or 50 yards and ends up in the end zone. Bowers, you don't typically see that. The Raiders would need to be in the red zone in most cases for Bowers to be able to get in. That's it's this Houston team, right? They got a little gut check last week, and I think that they are going to be ratcheting down at practice this week after giving too many yards and points up to Arizona, and they realize that.
Right. And then I would agree on the McLaurin side as well over Bowers in the flex. Running backs are Judkins and this one from Inner as well. Judkins and Bucky. Running backs was going to start Harvey over Judkins. The injuries worry me. Although that Buffalo matchup is juicy.
I would. Okay. Cheeky. What I would potentially lean towards is really consider playing Harvey and Judkins over Bucky. There's something not right here with this Bucky Irving deal in Tampa Bay this season, right? Whether it was the injury, I'm hearing and starting to read some things about, him needing some basically mental health days. And that's what took him so long to come back from this injury, is mentally, like he was just kind of out of sorts for whatever reason. I don't know. And it's these non-tangible things that when they start getting out there, it worries me a little bit, because normally teams do a pretty good job of keeping stuff like this tight-lipped during the season. But the fact that it's gotten out and there's rumors of it, on top of the fact that Tampa Bay these last couple weeks, Bucky's getting the majority of it, but they're still sprinkling in Sean Tucker, and Rashad White's still getting his. Like, they're still playing 3 running backs. It is not Liam Combs' system where Bucky Irving just went buck wild last year.
Right.
So I understand, again, going back to draft capital, I understand why you think you would play Bucky first, but keep an eye on the injury report. If Judkins is a go, it's hard to not play him against Buffalo, because that is their weakness, is the run game. But if you really don't want to, I completely get it. So then, yeah, Harvey and Bucky's where you got to go.
Yeah, and I can also get the being a little leery of Judkins with not only him being a little having been begged up here over the last little bit, but also that Cleveland's offensive line just very banged up there, and certainly the efficiencies have not been there for him. Right, like he's getting a lot of carries, getting some workload, but the 2 yards a carry type of average has been rough in there. But that has also come against some much better defenses over especially some much better kind of run defenses there. But Buffalo certainly frees up and should be a prime matchup for him. I think Harvey should be a plus matchup here as well. So I could see starting both Harvey and Judkins. If you want to roll Bucky, I don't mind that. But these are between Judkins and Harvey. You're talking about 2 guys that have really kind of the backfield to themselves in these situations. Whereas Bucky, since coming back, has really had a hard time getting above about 50% of the snap share in any one of those games. So the volume should be there for both Judkins and Harvey. So any other thoughts on this one?
No, sir.
All righty. Big Raylan, you don't trust Adams on a Thursday game. No, not with the info that's out there. Inner wide receivers are Lamb and Flowers. I feel pretty good about that matchup. Any other thoughts on that?
No. I would probably play McLaurin over Flowers personally, but I am not a fan of what Baltimore is doing offensively right now. So any chance I can get off of that, I have here lately.
Fair enough. I think Flowers and McLaurin are probably pretty close in a overall output this week. I do think Flowers has a better matchup for sure than McLaurin, but I can understand that thought process there as well. Big Rail and Sally, I didn't draft Genty. Well, you may not have drafted him, but you can understand the logic and the thought process by saying that you drafted him as a stud, and that it's not necessarily playing out either. So appreciate
Put down the sauce and listen to what we're saying, not what you want to hear.
Michael over on YouTube saying full point PPR, Loveland or Strange.
Loveland.
Yeah, I've been liking the Strange side of things. Denver's been kind of an easier matchup for tight ends, but that Colston Loveland against Green Bay, I think that he'll get some work there. So I would go with the Loveland side as well. Any other thoughts there?
No.
All right, Bryson. Sam, can we get a Super Bowl prediction?
Oof. I'm going to say Buffalo and the Rams.
Okay. Enter is saying Broncos. And
I would love to have that. I want that so bad. I don't know. Like, I'm very weary of the glass slipper that is the Denver Broncos this season. And maybe that's just how the whole thing shakes out. But I think Buffalo, with not having to deal with
the Chiefs and
Mahomes, or even the Bengals, who have also been a pain in Buffalo's side in the playoffs, I think Buffalo has a real shot here. As clunky as their passing game looks, if they can figure out a way just to slow teams down when they're running the ball, I think that Josh Allen will figure it out in the playoffs and take them there just by default of having the most experience.
Fair enough. I do like the Rams call. I think that we'll probably see that rock and roll. And as much as I would love to see the Broncos in there as well, and that defense is legit, and that defense certainly travels. I do kind of worry about the offensive woes at times, and the fact that that there's a lot of those games the offense decides not to show up until the late in the third, fourth quarter throughout the games, and while they manage to get the job done and find ways to win, yeah, no longer, they're doing that. They're doing that against the top end of the top end competition there. So as much as I would love to see that, I just don't think that they're going to get that done.
Broncos can hold on to the 1 seed.
Then it gets easier.
I think I might pivot.
Yeah, I could see that. Right.
I think I might pivot. If the Broncos can go that, getting into Mile High in the winter, like Buffalo probably wouldn't be afraid of the weather, but the air. Right. Again, you're playing in the thin, cold air, and it is just different. If you've never been in the climate that Denver has, it's a different type of cold, right? Buffalo has the humidity and the wind and everything else, so it's more of a just chill you all the way through cold. But when you get the elevation and you're playing at the level of these professional athletes, the air, you do just kind of lose your breath. And I don't know how else to explain it, but you're running around outside, you do just kind of like your breath just gets taken away because there's not enough oxygen.
Right. So I do think that the Bills have a legit shot at that. The Jaguars certainly seem like a team that is peaking at the right time. So it wouldn't surprise me if the Jaguars are a very tough out for whoever gets them. And if nobody can get them, I could see that one also coming into play there as well, right? Like there's a lot to the teams getting hot and being the hot team heading into the playoffs. So
this week will tell us a lot. Right?
I think so as well.
Broncos, Jags. Last week, I think, told us quite a bit going up against the Packers. Yes, they had the game at home. They have this one at home against Jacksonville, but you play the schedule. If the Broncos can get this one over on the Jaguars and essentially be able to lock it up, would they be able to lock it up? No, they would have to win next week because New England's only a game back, but they have the tiebreaker. Yeah, all the math. The Broncos need this one big time, I guess is all it is.
Yeah. Let's see. The Broncos can clinch the number 1 seed with a win plus the Chargers loss plus a New England loss plus a Buffalo loss. So those are all the scenarios that need to happen this week for the Broncos to clinch. Is a win, a Chargers loss, New England loss, a Baltimore loss, and a Buffalo loss. So
yeah, that ain't gonna happen. So
right,
just win, just win
and move on. Alrighty, Big Rail and say Rams and Buffalo, and that you agree. So Bryson saying it feels like Buffalo's year. So a lot of people are on that Buffalo train. Big Rail and saying the Bears are a fraud and the Packers without Parsons are mediocre. So Seattle is the only stumbling block for the Rams. Okay.
I completely disagree with that. I don't think Caleb Williams can lead the Bears to the Super Bowl this season, at least. Again, I have not been shy about
your dislike of
my dislike of just of Caleb and not thinking he's as good as the national media wanted to cram down our throats. So I can agree with that, right? Seattle, again, especially in the division, right? Seattle can probably hang with them a little bit. The question is, does Sam Darnold rise to the big game, or does he stub his toe again like we've seen going down the stretch last year and a couple big games here in this regular season.
Right. Bryson saying Wyoming is the highest NCAA Division I football stadium in the country. Josh Allen's season is here. LOL. Maybe.
I mean, he's aware of it. Like, again, you get acclimated pretty quickly, and without having the Bills roster here, like, I don't know how many of those guys have actually played meaningful football at elevation before. I just, it's possible. Yeah, that's all I'm saying. It's a home field advantage for the Broncos, and that's really what it is.
Right. One could argue Wyoming in meaningful football, but anyway.
Well, yes, tongue in cheek, I get it, but
oh no, I just wanted to throw that one out there. But Inner saying no matter what happens, this has been the best Broncos season in a decade, and it feels really good. Yes, I would agree with that.
Yeah, it's much better than watching them just struggle bus and suck their way through the last 7-8 years consistently.
Or the defense having been really good and the offense struggling to try and find the defense holding teams to 13 points to still lose the game. Like, oof. So anyway, I do believe that that's going to take us down here to the end of it. Any final thoughts out there for the viewers and listeners?
Speaking of the Broncos, I read an interesting stat, and I don't remember all the metrics, but it had something to do with Bo Nix and Dan Marino are the only two quarterbacks in NFL history through their first two seasons to throw for, and I don't remember the yardage, over 7,000 yards, whatever the touchdowns were, and win X amount of games. Like, it sounds pretty vague without having it in front of me, but I did look at it and go, holy crap. I was like, that's kind of interesting. So, as much as Bo Nix scares me at times, I guess as a Broncos fan, in Bo we trust, and here we go. So, other than that, good luck at the playoffs this week. We'll be back for our final. No, we got two more. We got this week and next week for Friday night show. So we're back Friday night, 11 p.m. Eastern, so we can answer any updated roster questions. Right, we know there's going to be some more information coming out between injury reports and weekly news, and we'll see how the Thursday night game goes and kind of what some folks are up against. So good luck on the waiver wire. Enjoy the Thursday night game, and we'll catch y'all Friday.
Absolutely. And that's going to do it for us tonight. Make sure that you hit us up on all the socials, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok at Good Old Boys FF. And do us a favor, hit that like, hit that subscribe button, follow button, wherever you're viewing this content. But that's going to do it for us tonight. He's Kevin. I'm Derek. Have a good one. Be safe. Toodaloos.